performers don't just read more, they remember more, and that's what gives them their edge. In this video, I'll break down 5 science-backed memory principles that will help you never waste another book again. These aren't hacks, they're timeless truths. And once you learn them, you'll never read the same way again. How would you become the greatest swordsman in the valley? You'd need a sparring partner, but not just any partner. You're given 2 choices. 1, a guy worse than you. You know his moves. You win every match. You walk away feeling like a champion. 2, a guy better than you. Faster, smarter. He pulls off techniques you've never seen before. You leave every session humbled. If you're smart, you choose the second guy. Why? Because it's not comfort that builds mastery. It's challenge. That second fighter forces you to level up, to struggle. And in that struggle, you grow. The same rule applies to learning. Learning is deeper and more durable when it's effortful. Your memory, it's like a muscle. Muscles don't grow without tension. Neither does memory. Rereading, highlighting, and skimming, that's the easy sparring partner. Recognition feels good, but it doesn't make you better. Real growth happens when your brain has to fight for understanding. When you retrieve, not reread. When you wrestle with ideas, not just recognize them. And this isn't a motivational speech, it's science. Cognitive psychologists have tested it again and again. In fact, let's imagine a common scenario. You ever finish a chapter, highlight a few lines, maybe reread a paragraph, and feel like a genius? You close the book thinking, that was productive, but the next day someone asks what you learned, and your mind, blank. Here's the uncomfortable truth. That feeling of progress, it was a trap. You weren't learning. You were fooling yourself. Mortimer J. Adler, author of How to Read a Book, put it sharply. The person who says he knows what he thinks but cannot express it usually does not know what he thinks. It felt like learning because it was familiar, but familiarity isn't mastery. You were just taking the path of least resistance, the route your brain naturally prefers. Robert Fritz said it best. Once a structure exists, energy moves through that structure by the path of least resistance. And your brain's energy, it loves rereading over recalling, highlighting over summarizing, skimming over struggling. Why? Because easy feels good. It triggers the dopamine of recognition without the discomfort of real effort. But here's the paradox. What feels hard is actually what works. The more you wrestle with the material, retrieving, rephrasing, reflecting, the deeper it embeds. It's clumsy, it's slow, and it feels like failure, but it's not. It's the signal that learning is actually happening. That's why Richard Feynman warned, the first principle is that you must not fool yourself, and you are the easiest person to fool. So if studying feels too smooth, stop, question it, because real understanding isn't built on ease, it's built on effort. When your brain starts to sweat a little, that's when you're doing it right. You didn't forget the article because you're lazy. Your brain simply never had a chance. You're reading something insightful on your phone. A notification pops up, so you check it. Then another. 10 minutes later, you're back on the home screen wondering, what was I reading again? That's not just distraction. That's how memory fails. And it happens to all of us. Here's why. Your working memory, the brain's mental whiteboard, can only hold 2 to 4 chunks of information at a time. That's it. No exceptions. Unless you actively rehearse or connect new info to what you already know, it slips away, often within seconds. It's not about how smart you are. It's about how cognitive bottlenecks really work. And in today's world, that fragile memory system is under constant attack. Social media blasts us with noise. Multitasking forces memory resets every few minutes. Worst of all, passive scrolling. It gives your brain input but no grip, like trying to plant seeds on concrete. No friction, no retention. But here's the twist. This isn't a new problem. Nearly a century ago, Carl Jung saw this coming. In the 1920s, he built a remote stone tower in Bollingen, far from the chaos of city life. There he practiced what we now call deep work, long stretches of uninterrupted focus. It's in that solitude that he developed some of the most powerful theories in modern psychology. So what's the real memory secret? It's not just about clever hacks or better note-taking apps. It's about protecting your focus long enough for ideas to take root. Want to remember more and forget less? Start by treating your attention like a scarce resource, because it is. You wouldn't trust a flashy ad and buy a laptop without checking the specs. So why do we treat books any differently? Too often we grab a book because it looks interesting or comes highly recommended. But a few chapters in, we realize it's not what we expected. It's slow, off topic, or just not useful. That's time you don't get back. This is exactly the kind of mistake Mortimer J. Adler helps readers avoid in How to Read a Book. He introduces inspectional reading, a smart, strategic way to assess a book's value before committing to it. Flip through the table of contents, skim chapter intros, and cross-reference book summaries. Think of it like test driving a car. Quick, surface level, but revealing. But here's where most people fall into a trap. They stop at summaries. With book apps, quote reels, and TLDR threads everywhere, it's tempting to think you've absorbed the book just by reading its highlights. And sure, summaries help. They prime your mind. They follow the Pareto principle. Often, 20% of the ideas hold 80% of the value. But here's the catch. Relying on summaries alone is like skipping to the answers in a math textbook. You might know what to think, but you miss the deeper win, learning how to think. And that's the point. Real intellectual growth doesn't come from collecting ideas like souvenirs. It comes from wrestling with them, struggling to understand, challenging the author. That cognitive friction, that's where true understanding is forged. By now, this should be clear to you. Just reading isn't learning. Remembering is. And remembering doesn't happen by accident. It happens by design. That's why the world's best learners rely on effortful learning principles, techniques that feel harder but actually work. Techniques like retrieval practice, pulling knowledge from memory, not just feeding it in. Spaced repetition, revisiting key ideas over time so they stick. Interleaving, mixing topics so your brain works harder to distinguish and connect concepts. You don't need a one-size-fits-all routine, but you do need a system built on these fundamentals. Here's how I built mine. Step 1. Take notes like a teacher. As I read, I take notes in my own words. I imagine I'm explaining the idea to a friend or a beginner. I use metaphors, dumb it down, or link it to something I already know. That's the Feynman technique in action. Learning by explaining. It's also retrieval practice. I'm actively pulling ideas from memory instead of passively reviewing them. And it taps into interleaving, since I connect these ideas with others I'm learning across different topics, strengthening the web of understanding. Step 2. Turn notes into flashcards. I feed my best ideas into Anki, a spaced repetition app. Each day I review key ideas just before I'd forget them. This is classic spaced repetition, or retrieval practice, backed by decades of memory science. Step 3. Apply or create with it. I force myself to do something with the information. That means making a YouTube video, trying the book's exercises, or writing how I'll apply the idea to my life. This blends retrieval, application, and interleaving, a trifecta for deep retention. Bottom line, you don't have to copy my routine, but you do need a system that trains your memory, because passive reading doesn't work. The best routine isn't the one that feels comfortable. It's the one where your mind does the heavy lifting. Remember, treat your mind like a muscle. Train it with the same intentionality and intensity a champion bodybuilder brings to the gym, because anything worth having is worth fighting for. If you agree, give this video a like, and thanks for watching.